Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're a returning subscriber, then thank you for joining me for another video, and if you're brand new here, welcome to my channel. Here you're gonna find a lot of property content, home decor content, lifestyle content, and pretty much everything in between. Before we move any further, I'm gonna need you to hit that subscribe button. Make sure you hit the notification bell to know when I post new videos. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoy it, and let's get into the video. I want everyone to get them a cute little drink. Today I've got my signature porn star martini. Yes, don't come for me, it's not in a martini glass, guys, don't worry. The cocktail segment of this video, it's gonna be lit, you don't worry about that. For now, it's in a wine glass. We move. So this is part 3 of my story time of how I was able to purchase my house. So if you haven't watched the previous 2 videos, I'm gonna give you a minute to just, yeah, go and watch that. I'll leave them somewhere on this screen so you can hop back and watch them in order. The first video was covering kind of my journey prior to even thinking about a house, all the way up to me trying to get my mortgage. Then the second video was the journey of me obtaining my mortgage all the way up until exchange of contracts. And so this video is going to touch on essentially from exchange of contracts all the way up until I actually completed on this house. Picking up from my last video, I have my equity loan from the government, I have my mortgage, which means I'm ready to exchange contracts. Exchanging contracts essentially is the final stage before you can turn around and say, yeah, I don't want to do this anymore. Once you exchange contract, or entering a legally binding contract to say that you will purchase this property from the developer, or if it's from just a regular seller selling their house. This stage is when you send across your deposits as well as any other kind of legal fees and other fees like that. If you don't go through the purchase of the property, then you lose kind of all the money that you've put towards the process. So your deposit goes, all your legal and any kind of fees you put, it's just gone. So if you're unsure or if you're not certain about the property, this is kind of the stage where they're like, okay, cool, up until now you can leave like with whatever losses you've occurred, cool, but you still have your deposit, you can go maybe find somewhere else or anything like that. But for me on my end, I was like, no, I'm ready. I always knew that this is the property that I wanted to purchase ever since I put my reservation down, so I was happy to move forward. As part of exchange of contracts, I had to put up the 5% deposit, which is part of the scheme. So as I mentioned in my previous video, the deposit that I put forward was slightly more. At the exchange of contracts, they only request 5% and then you pay the rest of it when you complete on the property. I sent this across to my solicitor. I also sent across the second installment of my solicitor fees. So when I first engaged with them in order to kind of see through my process, you had the initial kind of holding fee, retainer fee is what they call it. So that was the first kind of contribution towards my solicitor's fees. Then at the exchange of contract, there's another portion of the solicitor's fees that's put forward, and then your final amount is paid at completion. At this exchange of contracts, I paid the 5% fee, the solicitor's fee, and I think that's it. Yeah. So that's all that was needed. So I transferred the money to my solicitor. They then transferred it to the developer. And this is why I would also recommend, just another top tip, I would recommend using the solicitors that the developers provide. Previously I said you should use your own mortgage advisor, which I still recommend you should do, but the ease of using the solicitors that are recommended by the developer is that they are already dealing with a lot of people purchasing from that property. So with regards to processing things quicker or processing things easier. They know who to speak to, they're in constant contact with them, so it just makes things flow a little bit easier. Once I sent that across to my solicitor, they sent that to the developer, and it was October when I exchanged my contracts. At this time, another thing that is going on is trying to understand when my completion is going to be. Construction resumed about May time of 2020, and at that point they estimated that the completion would be done around December, January 2020, 2021. I was just like, fair enough, like, makes sense, cool, I'm happy with that. However, when I exchanged contracts, I was given an actual date. So prior to that, they give you kind of a time period as to when the property is going to complete. But when you exchange contracts, they actually give you a date. And so the date that I was given by the developers was the 19th of Feb. Cool. So this new date is about 1 to 2 months after I was anticipating completion. Also, with regards to my mortgage offer was given to me on July. During my application for the equity loan, I actually applied to have the mortgage extended because it was coming up to the expiry. For whatever reason, I still don't really know to this day, my mortgage offer was only valid for like 6 to 7 weeks, which initially when you first get your offer, it should be valid for at least 2 to 3 months. So now fast forward to me exchanging contracts, I've now been told that my completion date is the 19th of Feb. The date that I applied for the mortgage to be extended was the 11th of August. I was starting to panic a lot because I was thinking, oh my God, my mortgage is going to expire before I complete. That's gonna cause a whole load of issues. At that point in time, I didn't really know what the issues were going to be. I just knew that that's definitely a problem. I spoke to my mortgage advisor and she was like, yeah, don't worry, we'll speak to the bank closer to the time and ask for like a short extension of your mortgage offer. So I thought, cool, no worries, done. As soon as the working week started is when I phoned up my mortgage advisor. I was like, hello, hi, can we get this extension? Because it was causing a bit of anxiety. Like, I was just thinking to myself, what if they don't extend it? What if this? What if that? What if that? So I was like, let me just put my mind at ease and at least know that they're going to extend it. So she contacted the bank and said, hey, can we extend it until after the 19th of Feb? So the bank came back to us and they were like, yeah, no. Like, in a very simple one line, they were like, you've already had your extension for the new build, which is a maximum of 6 months. We can't extend it any further. At that point, I started to panic a lot. Like, this time period, like January, was one of the hardest months that I've ever experienced because at the time I was ill. I was extremely unhappy at the job that I was at, and I was moving to a new job, but I was still like in the last kind of few weeks in my old job, and it was just super stressful. This was just an incredibly stressful point in time. So hearing that news, I was just shattered. Like, I haven't really spoken about like the mental health or the mental kind of strain that I experienced during all of this, but particularly at this point is when like I reached my breaking point. I was just so overwhelmed with everything that was going on at the time that I just had a mini breakdown. I was just like, I can't do this anymore. I like took a week off to just reset and just to get myself together, essentially, because it was extreme. Like, the pressure that I was applying on myself, and I tend to do this a lot, which is neither here nor there, but I do tend to put a lot of pressure on myself. And so when things just weren't going the way they were supposed to, so soon to me like reaching the finishing line, I was just stressing out like crazy. So when I got this news from the bank, I was panicking. So I called my solicitor to kind of understand what my options would be should I like have no mortgage, if my mortgage was to expire. And the options that she put forward, I'm not gonna lie, they weren't great. She was saying basically I'd have to apply for another mortgage. I already knew that the process to apply for another mortgage, I'm not gonna lie, is long. Second of all, I'd have to incur the same costs again and go through the whole process again. I asked her if there was any chance that the completion date could be moved from the 19th to the 11th, and she said, we can't kind of confirm or deny that. You're going to have to speak to the developer and see what they can do. Cool. So I called the developers and I basically speak to them. They're the salespeople that I've been in contact with since I saw the house in the showroom. So we've had a bit of rapport. So I speak to them and I'm like, hey, this is my predicament. Obviously, COVID caused all of this, because if it wasn't for COVID, my mortgage would still be intact and the completion date would not be this far out. So keeping that in mind, is there any way that the completion date can move from the 19th to the 11th? And they were like, oh, your completion date isn't the 19th. And I was like, what do you mean it's not the 19th? My solicitor told me that it was the 19th and she could only get that information from you guys. And they were like, yeah, so that's just like a placeholder date. Like, we have to write the date, month and year when we give that, when we exchange contracts. And so that was just the date that was given at the time. I was like, okay, so what's the new date? Do you want to let me know? And they were like, yeah, we don't know. I said, right. They were like, yeah, we're gonna know closer to the time, around the time like build complete happens, which is the end of Jan. Bearing in mind this was like the second week of Jan. So yeah, we're not really gonna know until then. I was like, right, okay, cool. So I hung up. The anxiety that was building up was insane because I was just stuck in limbo. I didn't really know what was going on. They wanted me to wait like 2 weeks. I was like, I can't, my heart just couldn't take it. So I called again. This time I spoke to someone different, and essentially they let me know that they're expecting the completion date to be the 12th of February. Oh my gosh, I don't think you understand the relief that I felt. God really just said, I'ma boss you. Because yes, it wasn't the 11th, but it was the 12th. So I was like, oh my God, amazing. She was like, yeah, because I'm like on the first floor. So she was like, you're going to be like one of the first people that we complete and move in. And we're expected to do this on the 12th because I think they said so the build complete was going to be on the 28th of January. So it was the last working day of January, because that was the conditions of the help to buy. Build complete had to be completed by the 31st of January. And so they have to give the solicitors a minimum of 8 working days in order to complete on the house, which took us to the 12th of Feb. And so I said, is there any chance that this could move to the 11th, because that's the date that my mortgage is going to expire? And she was like, yeah, that's not a problem on our end, but you need to confirm this with your solicitor, because that would mean 1 less working day than we are legally obliged to give them. I was like, cool, no worries. I speak to my solicitor, she lets me know that's fine, that's not a problem. Completing on the 11th shouldn't be an issue, that's okay. The build complete happens on, I think, the 26th, so even earlier than anticipated, which was amazing. I was so happy, and that was the day that I got my completion receipt. So essentially this was a receipt of everything that I owed to the developer in order for me to complete. This included kind of the legal fees that were remaining, so included like the mortgage fee, the leasehold fee, stamp duty, land tax return fee, because I don't actually have to pay stamp duty. I didn't have to pay stamp duty on this product. Obviously the fee for the solicitor, the fee for kind of the deeds and everything like that. Then I had to pay the remaining 8,000 for my deposit. So the remaining 8,000 on top of the 5% that I had to pay at exchange of contract. On the 11th of Feb, I got the call to come and collect my keys, and here I am today. You can see that I'm in my new place. So that is my story time of how I purchased my property. Thank you so much if you watched all 3 parts and all the way to the end of this video. Please remember to give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. leave a comment below of what you'd like to see next, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye guys.